So like I said, this webinar will be available to review behind the members-only portal of lvchamber.com. So if you ever want to review a Chamber University at all, you do have to log in on our website. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Western Vice President of LeTip International, John Diacunto. John, the floor is yours.
Well, great. Good morning. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. So good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about networking, a little bit about building relationships out there, long-term relationships, short-term relationships, a bit about networking in the community, which a lot of us already do. Some of us don't do it enough. Some of us don't do it as successfully as we'd like to. And then again, some of us aren't as gregarious out there getting into different types of programs. So I'm going to start off a little bit with, some of the ways we used to network years ago in the social atmosphere. We go into a networking event, we stand there, we start to hand out business cards, and we wait for somebody to call us. It's kind of an old paradigm out there. It's not the way we do business today. Today it's a little bit more sophisticated between face-to-face networking, social networking, how we do it. So building relationships is really what's important. The new paradigm is building those good quality relationships that last for years to come, last for a lifetime out there. There's a lot of different things we do when we're out at different networking events that could really enhance our relationships with the business community and also personally as well. So I'm going to talk about different types of networking events that we do utilize, especially here in the Las Vegas area, which consists of social type networking events that we go to on maybe a continual basis, monthly basis. Usually they're evening events. And then there's strategic networking, which is geared a little bit more to the tradesperson, where we go to events where if we're a contractor or a realtor, we go to events that actually feature those industries as well. And then quite a bit we're going to go over structured networking, which I'm very, very involved with and have been involved with here in the Las Vegas community since 1994. So as far as the social networking atmosphere, these are networking events where we go out. We're not required to be at the events. Sometimes we go continuously, sometimes we don't. But it does make a difference when we are consistent with those events. But the social networking is a little bit more informal than other types of networking groups that we're involved with. It includes informal or formal networking events. You may not see the same people over and over again. You're still going to build bridges of influence, but sometimes it does lack the consistency. And these type of events are ones that usually held at night. They're usually, what do we call it, networking after work kind of events.
Business after hours.
Business after hours through the chamber as well, which we do here quite a bit. And they'll have a group of, let's say, a lot of realtors, a lot of mortgage people, a lot of dentists, so on and so forth. So it's a whole conglomeration of different businesses here in the community, networking with each other. But the important thing is building the relationships either way. So these type of events usually are, like I said, usually held in the evening. People get together after work. It's convenient. It's a lot of socializing, more than consistent type or structured type of networking. It does work well, and there's a purpose for everything out there. There's a purpose for the social networking, the strategic and the structured networking. There's a purpose for the social networking. All right, so they all work, or the social media. So they all work hand in hand, and we can utilize all of them to the best of our ability out there if we know why we're there and what we're looking for. The other one is strategic networking that I discussed, and that's a little bit more of if you're an attorney and you go to the Bar Association. If you're a realtor and you're involved with the Realtors Association, you're going there not just to network, but you're also going there to learn, to see what others are doing. So again, they all have different aspects of it. With the strategic networking or the tradespeople networking, You're not only there to meet other individuals that are in your industry, but you're there to learn from them. How are they actually doing their business? And more importantly, what are they doing that can help you in your business as well? We want to learn from these other individuals with the same thing. So it's not competition. It's an opportunity to learn how somebody handles their clients. Maybe I can learn something from them as well. And we'll discuss a little bit more in detail, but I want to talk a little bit about the structured networking out there. And the structured networking works a little different. That works a little bit more with an organization such as the organization that I'm involved with, which is LeTip. And we have a couple major groups out there. One is LeTip, one is BNI. They're probably the two largest in the world, actually, and have chapters throughout. But the structured networking is a little bit different. It's more of an accountability program where members pay an annual fee to be there. They're required to be at meetings. They're required to hold true to their commitment of promoting only that particular business that they're in. But the structured networking has a little bit more to it. It's building relationships that really work over time. I see a lot of people who go to a chamber event, and I'll speak to them, and they'll say, well, you know, I went to that event. It didn't do anything for me. They don't realize the consistency is important. You don't go to one event and expect to get business. You go to an event over and over and over again, month after month, year after year, so you can start seeing the same people and building those relationships. And the way the structured networking works is that you are required to be there, so there's a lot of accountability. So when we talk about social media, we talk about giving referrals. I might give a referral to somebody. Let's say if you do it on Neighbor Next Door or an Angie's List, it's great. You know, you have a referral out there. You give, you know, you get somebody to come in and do some services for you, or you buy a product that way. There's really little accountability. With the structured networking, we have to see each other week after week or month after month. That means a lot when you refer business to somebody, because now you're going to sit down across the table from them and look into their eyes. And if you gave me a good qualified referral or one of your most valuable clients that you would like me to work with, it's not like you're not going to see me, you're not going to be in the same room with me. With the structured networking, you're actually going to be looking into my eyes, and I'm going to be looking at you. So there's a lot of accountability of making sure you take care of that person. Here's who I am. You can see me. I'm going to take good care of your client. So that's really important in that aspect. So there are different phases of networking as well. There's the preparation, there's the engagement, and then there's the follow-up. A lot of us don't realize that we're going to prepare when we go to a networking event. You know, what type of an event is it? A lot of us don't research it to see the types of businesses that might be in the room. A lot of us don't prepare as well with even what to wear. You know, where's the event being held? Is it going to be more casual? Is it going to be more formal? One time I went to a business networking event that was being held actually at a pool at a hotel, and the invitation said to dress appropriately. And that's all it said, so I wasn't sure, well, what is appropriate? It's a pool networking event. Are people going to be there in shorts and sandals? Will I be out of place if I wear a suit? So I really wanted to think about this. How would I feel most comfortable? And I think a lot of us don't realize to go out there and say, hey, you know, how do I dress appropriately for this event where I'm going to feel good about myself? Because if I feel good, I have more confidence. If I have more confidence, I'm going to show up better, and I'm probably going to get more business that way. So I go to this pool event, and I'm thinking, what do I wear? You know, people are going to be in just dress slacks, or they're going to be in shorts. So I says, well, you know, I'm going to go there. Usually I wear a suit and a tie. I said, well, I'm not going to wear a tie, definitely not wearing a tie. I might wear a suit, or I might wear a suit jacket. So I says, you know, I'll keep a jacket with me, but I'll wear nice slacks, nice shoes with a nice button-down shirt. And I go into the pool event, and I was surprised to see a couple people there in shorts, a couple of them in sandals, but they were appropriately dressed in nice shorts with a nice shirt and sandals. So, you know, they did really fit in. And then I looked around the pool area, and I noticed a couple of guys in suits with ties on. And I said, you know, I don't think they feel as comfortable, especially because it was in July. so it was hot. It was about 98 degrees. But then I did see others that had suit jackets on. So I really was careful on how I was going to show up at the event because I felt more confident in the way I was dressed, and feeling that confidence brought some more business my way. So you really want to think about when you go into an event, am I prepared with business cards? What type of business cards do I have? I always suggest to have two different types of business cards. Ones that are really fancy, that you want to give to somebody special, or maybe somebody that you really want to target and get business from. Maybe it's somebody, what we call in LeTip is your power partner. You know, if I'm the mortgage guy and I'm working with a realtor, or I'm working with a title company, I might want to give them a special business card, something that really is classy. And then I might want to have the regular business cards that I just hand out by the dozens, a little bit different. So think about when you go out to a networking event, what type of business cards that you want to bring with you. And if you don't have a couple of different types now, you may want to check with your local printer and see, and your local graphic artist, and say, hey, I'd like to have something really fancy that I can give to special people, and I'd like to have some that I can just hand out that are inexpensive. Another thing with going to networking events is taking notes. Any of us that are in business, we know there are certain people that have more interest in what we do and others that have less interest. You know, with me in the LeTip organization, I always like to invite people to my chapter, to my events that are going on. So I like to know how interested they are. So when I meet somebody at a networking event, I usually use a number system. Sounds crazy. Some people might be doing it. Some people on the call right now, on the webinar, might be thinking about this. You already do it. But I use a little number system from 1 to 10. So I want to know, well, how interested are they? If they're really interested in meeting with me, I usually put a 9 or a 10 on there. If I'm speaking to somebody and they say, yeah, that sounds great, yeah, give me a call, and I kind of get the feeling they're not too interested, I might put a 2 or a 3. And the reason I do this is because I want to remember who I spoke to and how interested they were in my service or my product. So going to a networking event, you might want to think about that, especially if it's a chamber social event or a large social event in town where you're going to meet a lot of different people in a lot of different industries. Think about taking the notes. Again, the right mindset is important. You know, what do you want to get from the event? Who do you want to target? What's your market out there? What do you expect, and who do you expect to be there? So when I go to do an event, I want to look at the past events that they've had, and I want to see what type of industries are showing up, what type of people are showing up. And a lot of the events, we put photos on Facebook and different social media out there, so it's a great opportunity to see what people are wearing, see what type of people are in the room, so that you can engage them properly. And that brings us to phase 2 after the preparation of engagement. You know, how do you engage people when you're there at a social event? We notice most of these social networking events are stand-up affairs. There might be high-top tables. The reason it's done that way is it's very easy to engage somebody when you're standing up rather than if they're sitting at a table. So it's easy to mosey along over to somebody and kind of not eavesdrop, but get into a conversation. Most people are there to network, so they're always going to introduce themselves. One very valuable thing that we have here in Las Vegas is that a lot of people come from a lot of different areas. They come from different states, different countries. So there's always the icebreaker, how long you've been here in town, certain questions you can ask. These are some of the things that you want to prepare as well before you go to the event is, what kind of questions do I want to ask people? I remember my wife used to say, you know, she used to think I was out partying all the time because I'd be at a lot of networking events. And I said, you know, you don't understand. When you're at an event, you're working, and you're actually on all the time. It's like being on the radio. You're on constantly. So you're always thinking about, what's my next question? How do I engage this person? How do I keep them interested? A lot of times I just ask a lot of questions of them. I don't get involved with what about me or what it's about. I get involved with them. I want to know, how do you do business? How do you network out there in the community? What type of business are you looking for? You know, I want to learn more about them so I know how to refer business back and forth. So that's the engagement portion. A lot of things that I talk about too in the book. I wrote a book, Networking for Lifelong Income, but I talk a lot about what to do at the networking events and what not to do. You know, there's usually alcohol at the evening events. You know, well, alcohol is okay to break the ice a little bit, you know, or loosen up a little, but you don't want to drink too much alcohol. A lot of times I'll go to an event, I don't drink alcohol at the events most of the times. I'll just get like a club soda with a lime in it so it looks like I'm drinking. But I want to be comfortable. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to talk to people that are drinking too much. Sometimes there's wine served. This is going to sound funny, but, you know, a lot of us want to be comfortable and we want people to engage us and receive us well. So I don't want to eat very, very spicy foods at the event, or those spicy meatballs that people serve, because, you know, I don't want to offend anybody with my breath. Some people drink white wine because it's not as powerful as red wine. So, you know, red wine stays on your tongue a little bit longer. And this might sound silly, but, you know, we look at that stuff. So always engage and see what people are doing. You know, if you're eating or drinking and you notice people are backing away a little bit, you might want to take a note of that, a mental note, and say, you know, maybe next time I don't do that. Maybe next time I have a little something different. A lot of times if I'm going to eat at an event, I'll usually eat celery or carrot sticks rather than those spicy foods. And I know it kind of sounds a little different, but you want people to be really engaged with you as well and be as, you know, and lean into you. So, you know, we don't want to have any offensive breath out there as well. Another thing I want to talk about is a little bit about following up, how important it is to follow up when you meet somebody at an event. You'll notice when you're out there networking, you'll get an email the next day. And I have to say, realtors are phenomenal with following up and sending a follow-up email. It really does make a difference, and it keeps you on others' mind when you can follow up with an email or even a phone call. Again, with those emails or phone calls, it's always, hey, I'd like to learn more about you. When can we get together so I can learn how I can send you business? It's always about the other person. People like to talk about their business, so give them the opportunity to do that. Think about being creative when you do follow up. How can you be creative with that person? What information do you want to share with them that's going to get them interested in meeting with you as well? You know, be the wowable person out there. So again, I want to touch a little bit more on the strategic networking, because there's a lot of organizations out there that really have a lot to offer in the way of engagement, in the way of accountability. When you're looking for a strategic or a structured networking organization, look for ones that meet at a public venue. Look for ones that require you to be the only business in the chapter or in the group. Look for ones that hold you accountable for attendance. You know, people can come and go as they please, but if there's one that has an accountability for attendance, you know the members are going to be there actively week after week or month after month when they meet. Again, building those relationships is really important, but don't expect to get business right away. Some people will come into a business group and they'll give it 6 months or a year. I usually tell people, how long did you give your business? Did you figure you'll give it 6 months and after 6 months you'll leave? No, you're going to give it a lot more time. So usually going into a structured business leads group, you usually want to give it a couple of years, because it does take time to build those relationships out there. And the relationships are really what counts, because you become friends after a while and you rely on each other, not just for getting the business, but for giving more business out there. So I don't know how much time we have, or if I should...
We have about 10 minutes left, so you can continue on if you have a couple of tips. Or if anybody has a question, you can also press *7 on your phone or type it in the chat bar. But continue on. If you got any more tips for them.
Okay. Any questions, meanwhile, before I go on?
Anyone? No, that's okay.
Great. Okay. So I'll go on a little bit, a little bit more with, my thoughts on finding networking groups out there that work. A lot of us don't know where to find business, or we don't know where to find out what we'll call power partners out there, people we're going to do business with. So this is what I do a lot of times. When I don't know who to get in contact with, I usually call a friend or a client of mine. And if I'm looking out there for somebody to be involved with, maybe I'm in the payroll business, a payroll service, and I'm looking for CPAs to market with, but I don't really know how to approach them. A good idea you might want to try is call up an associate of yours, call up a client of yours, call up a friend or a neighbor, and just ask them, I'm looking for a good CPA. Who could you recommend me to? Get one or two of those CPAs from those people you know. Now when you call up the CPA, it's actually a warm call. You're not really making a cold call because you want to go and sit down with them. Now it's a warm call. Hey, by the way, one of my clients, John Jones over here, uses you a lot, and he recommends you out there. I'm looking for a good quality CPA that I can work with. And since you're highly recommended, I'd like to see about getting together with you. Are you looking for more clients? What are you doing later this week? Can we get together for coffee or lunch? So it's a great way to find people out there that you don't know who to touch on when you could get a referral from somebody else out there. For some of you that are in networking groups out there where you want to bring new people into the networking groups, it's a great way to find new people for your group. A lot of people don't call guests when they come to their networking groups either. They just feel, well, it's Rachel's guest, it's John's guest out there, I'm not going to call them. But it's a great idea to call every single guest that ever comes to your networking group. Not to promote your business to them, but basically to find out how did they like the group. What did they think of the people that were there? What did they think of the program? And who did they see that might be a good referral source for them? The more you're interested in those people, the more they're going to be interested in you. So I used to call every single guest that ever came to my business group because I really wanted to know how they liked it. Because once they leave and they don't come back, we're scratching our heads thinking, why didn't they come back? What didn't they like about it? But if you approach them, you'll find out firsthand what they liked, what they didn't like, what they felt might be good for them if they come back again. And it's another good way of encouraging them to meet you and find out a little bit more about you. So those are some of the things that I talk about with networking groups and how we can start building those relationships out there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for you. You mentioned on the business cards, writing down the number system. Do you recommend people, numbers aren't for me. So for me, I would personally write down what I talked about. Do you recommend doing that on the back of their business cards, writing oh, hey, or a spot that you talked to them at, maybe things that symbolize, the conversation that you had.
Anything that's gonna help you remember that person,
Yeah.
because you meet a lot of people out there. So you might be meeting 30 people at a networking
Yeah.
event, and I don't remember everybody I meet.
You're getting
I might remember their face, but I might not remember exactly what we spoke about. But anything that can help you, whether it's write a little note on there. And by the way, writing on somebody's business card as well, in some cultures, it's impolite to do that.
Okay.
So if you're ever in front of somebody and you do want to make a note on their business card, even if they say, hey, I don't have my right phone number on there, I always ask them, would you mind if I make a note on your card?
Okay. Yeah.
Because again, there are cultures out there that, feel that is inappropriate. And it's insulting to them.
What a good tip. You had mentioned the networking event that you had at the pool, and it's ironic because next week we have a networking event that's happening at Palace Station. It's the business lunch. So that made me make a note I have to put in the reminder email to wear appropriate attire, but we are having flip-flops at that event. So it is going to be a little bit more business casual, but thank you for reminding me that I had to do that. Do you have any horror stories from networking events that you've been to that you would like to share with the audience?
Oh, good. Wow. Gee, I wish you would have asked me that before so I had time to think about it. Horror stories. There's,
what not to do.
What not to do at a networking event?
What not to do.
What not to do at a networking event. Number one is don't get drunk, of course. Don't get drunk. I haven't seen too many arguments or fights at networking events. I mean, everybody's there pretty much for the same purpose, and that's to meet each other and to get to know each other out there. But I will tell you, I've been at some events. I'll see people at events, and I've seen them for years where they're there, and they're there for business, but they're looking for a date. You know.
Okay.
However, I've seen people that have also been involved with different networking groups that have ended up getting married. You know,
Okay.
actually, one of my good friends just, you know, him and his now that it's his wife, they met at their networking event, and you know, they got together at the networking club that they were in, and eventually, after time, got to know each other and got engaged, and now got married. So there's a lot of good things that can happen out there. It's all in how we want to receive it or be received by others.
Okay. And back to your food thing, when we have, as an event coordinator, it's really difficult because you have to find a menu, you know, that now fits dietary needs, and, you know, we don't want the same thing at every event. Do you recommend that, like, ladies or men put a couple of Tic Tacs in their pocket, you know, bring a mint with them? I'm going to have a bowl of mint at my next networking event just so I can, you know.
I like the little Listerine tabs.
Yeah, the
I
Listerine.
keep those because, you know, it does. Yeah, definitely Tic Tacs are great. You know, they make a little bit more noise in your pocket when you walk in. But, you know, it's always actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a good opportunity when you do take out a Tic Tac to shake it and put one in your hand and then offer it to the person you're sitting or standing with as well.
Yeah.
But definitely always have something there to mitigate, you know, any breath problems.
Any breath problems, because there are some. All right, well, I think that is all the time that we'll have. We'll wrap up now. If anybody on the line has any questions, you can unmute yourself, like I said, by pushing *7, or you can type it in the chat feature if you have any questions. If not, we'll hang out for just a second. If not, we'll have you guys all have a good Friday. What?
I mentioned where to find
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And if you do want to look on for my book, it's called Networking for Lifelong Income. It's actually on Amazon.com. You can either type in my name or just put Networking for Lifelong Income.
Yeah. Well, have a great Friday, everyone. Have a safe weekend, and may the 4th be with you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.